Regardez tout le monde ce qui m'est arrivé. Oh, c'est moche. C'était ma casquette qui a essayé de m'attaquer. Ah, putain. Bref, there is a point to that little introduction, apart from to show you how I now have an ugly forehead. And that is that in today's video, we're going to cover the word happen in various ways in French, depending on the context. And there are some gems in here of expressions. So, si vous êtes prêts, c'est parti. Right, no time to beat around the bush. This one is incredibly useful. You will hear it all the time. You will ask it yourself. It is qu'est-ce qui se passe? Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Which translates to what's going on, what's happening. Now you can imagine how useful this is and how many times it comes up. You could be lost in your French class. You could ask a stranger what's going on when there's a bit of a scuffle or a large group of people gathering somewhere. Really, use your imagination. You can use it a hell of a lot. It uses one of these so-called pronominal verbs, but don't worry too much about it if the grammar is a bit confusing. Just remember the expression as a whole. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Now, if you've seen any of my other videos on shortcuts in French, you won't be surprised to hear that this one involves a couple of them itself. We have qu'est-ce que, which becomes qu'est-ce que, and we also have se passe, which becomes space. So you put it all together and you end up with qu'est-ce qui se passe? Qu'est-ce qui se passe? And like I said before, it's incredibly common to hear this one, and you'll be hearing it so often that you'll very quickly get used to the contracted nature of the phrase. This can also be used to ask someone how something went, and also to respond with how something went. You can either use comment ça s'est passé, or you can use ça s'est passé comment, ça s'est passé comment. And you can also respond to this question by either just saying oui, bien ou oui, très bien, or to use the verb again, you would say oui, ça s'est très bien passé, merci. Ça s'est très bien passé, merci. Notice how très bien goes in between the conjugation of the auxiliary verb and the past participle of se passer, which is different to in English when we would put very well at the end of the sentence. Now we come on to one that I used in that little introduction at the beginning. I said, regardez ce qui m'est arrivé. Regardez ce qui m'est arrivé. Now this is an example of the expression arriver à quelqu'un. Something can arrive à quelqu'un, which means something happens to someone. So when that someone is known in the context of the sentence, like me, it happened to me, the à quelqu'un gets replaced by me. And because arriver begins with a vowel, it becomes M apostrophe. So ça m'arrive in the present tense. Ça m'arrive. And what I used was a sentence in the passé composé, so I used ça m'est arrivé. Ça m'est arrivé. Because remember, arriver is also a verb which uses être as its auxiliary verb. Je suis arrivé. You can also just use ça arrive in a more general case to express the fact that stuff just happens. You're talking about something with a friend, maybe they've had some bad news or some good news, and you just say, oui, ça arrive de temps en temps. Ça arrive. Now, number 3 is il arrive que. So we're sticking with this idea of using arriver in a way that means something happens. But in this case, it's il arrive que and then the event or the action. And it's kind of an alternative way of saying sometimes, or there are times when such and such happens. But one important thing to note is that il arrive que introduces the subjunctive. So the conjugated verb immediately after que should be in the subjunctive. Let's look at a couple of examples. We have il arrive que je sois insupportable. Il arrive que je sois insupportable. Sometimes I am unbearable, which I'm sure most of us can relate to. And thank you to the people who put up with us on a day-to-day basis. So you see here that je sois insupportable is je sois, because sois is the corresponding subjunctive conjugation for je suis. Another simple example would be to just say, sometimes it rains. Sometimes it happens, it rains. You can say, il arrive qu'il pleuve. Il arrive qu'il pleuve. And you see here the conjugation is pleuve, which is the subjunctive present of il pleut. All right, now we're going to talk about one which describes when something is happening, perhaps an event. So you want to say the date and time of an event, and it is to say avoir lieu. Avoir lieu. And I remember first learning this when studying for the DELF B2 exam, and I saw it in one of the example texts for the speaking part, and I just never forgot it. It's funny how things stick straight away and other things you need to study for ages just to retain them. But I find a good way to remember this if you're struggling is just to remember that avoir lieu literally translates to have place. So if you combine that with an example sentence like le congrès aura lieu entre le 15 et le 19 avril. The conference will take place or will have place between the 15th and the 19th of April. So just notice in this example, I've chosen to use the future conjugation of avoir because it's an upcoming event. Ensuite, we have the statement comment ça se fait? Comment ça se fait? Comment ça se fait? Now, just like with se passer earlier, if you're not comfortable yet with the verb se faire, don't worry about it. Just try and remember the whole of this expression. Now, it can come in two forms. You can have a statement part before it, such as tu laisses tes Tupperware partout. Comment ça se fait? Tu laisses tes Tupperware partout. Comment ça se fait? And the second way is to start the sentence with comment ça se fait and add que and then add the situation you're talking about. For example, comment ça se fait que vous travaillez dans la même boîte? Comment ça se fait que vous travaillez dans la même boîte? And boîte is an informal way of saying company. What's the closest thing that comment ça se fait translates to in English? Well, it's either how come or how does that happen? How does that happen? How does that happen that someone leaves Tupperware around everywhere? How does that happen that you two, of all people, end up working at the same company? How does that happen? How come? And lastly, we have another one of these pronominal verbs, and that is se dérouler. Se dérouler. Now this one is used a bit like avoir lieu when you talk about how something is taking place. But I like to talk about it in terms of something that is continually happening. I'm not sure if that's the best distinction between se dérouler and avoir lieu, but I like to use it that way to talk about how something has a duration, like a court case or a music festival over a few days. So one example of se dérouler, if we take the idea of a festival, would be to say le festival se déroule les 2 dernières semaines de mai. Le festival se déroule les 2 dernières semaines de mai. If you notice carefully, or you may have already noticed, this contains the word roule, which ties to a similar verb which is rouler, or probably dérouler as well, which talks about something rolling. And I like to think so dérouler would be to roll back or to unwind or to unravel, which reminds me that it's a continuous process that's just rolling on, that's moving on. So that's a way to tie it to the idea of this being a verb to be used when something is happening, when something is going on, when something is taking place. There's so many ways to describe it. Right, so a very quick résumé of the list that we have just seen. First of all, we had qu'est-ce qui se passe? Qu'est-ce qui se passe? And the other uses of se passer, which are comment ça s'est passé and oui, ça s'est très bien passé, or with any adverb you like. Numéro 2 is to talk about something happening to someone with arriver à quelqu'un. Like une attaque de casquette est arrivée à Alex. I know I won't be forgetting that one anytime soon. And numéro 3 is il arrive que plus the subjunctive, which is used to talk about something that happens sometimes. It just so happens that blah blah blah. Numéro 4 is avoir lieu. We use this to talk about how an event is taking place. It literally has place on a certain date and time. Numéro 5, comment ça se fait? Comment ça se fait? How come this has happened? How in the world does this happen? Comment ça se fait? Et enfin, numéro 6, se dérouler. Se dérouler. This pronominal verb is used to talk about something taking place, and I like to use it to describe something that has a duration. But feel free to use it interchangeably with avoir lieu. And bang, right away you have two ways of expressing the same thing. You can chuck one in anytime you feel like it. Alors, c'est fini, mais j'ai une question pour vous. Dites-moi, qu'est-ce qui se passe d'intéressant dans votre vie maintenant? Dites-moi dans les commentaires ci-dessous. Si cette vidéo vous a plu, n'hésitez pas à liker en cliquant sur le bouton en dessous de la vidéo. Et si vous n'êtes pas déjà abonné à la chaîne, comment ça se fait? Allez-y maintenant en cliquant sur le grand bouton rouge qui se situe également en dessous de la vidéo. It really helps me to know, guys, that you're enjoying my content and want me to continue making more. But I look forward to reading all your comments down below, and until next time, bon français, merci de regarder, à la prochaine, ciao.